Hi, this is Roxy. Everybody's been asking me about some of my cups. Of course, I've watched all the YouTube videos. Mine are going to be just a little different than everybody else's, but of course that's what makes everybody different is the technique. So a little bit of idea of what I have here. This is the cup that I'm going to be using. A friend of mine doesn't like the color, so she wants to give it to somebody, so she's got some ideas for me. So you have some decoupage here. You have your two glitters. I'm going to spray paint them first once I've glittered them and used the decoupage on the cup. So you'll need some sandpaper, medicine cups, and that's to mix the epoxy in. I have a couple brands that I use. So this is just one that I had in a box to lay around. It's not what I'm going to use today, but you got the idea of it's epoxy. My football for my turner. Definitely need gloves for when you're putting your epoxy on. A sponge stick, something to stir your epoxy, and then I have a heat gun. Okay, so I'm going to do this tutorial in segments and put it together. It'll be my first attempt, so wish me luck. Okay, this is going to be a ombre cup, so I'm going to take this outside and I'm going to spray it two different colors. Now, most people use the alcohol and kind of clean the cup off just to get all your grease from your hands or any debris on there. I just kind of wipe mine down, and this Rust-Oleum paint basically paints over everything. So this is the cup. I am not going to tape the lid off. Most people do. I prefer not to in most cases unless somebody asks me. So I'll take it out, paint it, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have taken the cup outside and I have spray painted it two different colors. So the yellow, the blue. And the reason I do this is simply because the cup was red originally, so in order to help the color not use so much glitter, the glitters will actually look a little bit more vibrant instead of trying to cover up. You'll get more coverage, I guess, this way. So I'm going to go ahead and get my decoupage ready, and I have two different mats here. One's going to be for the blue portion, and the other part will be for the yellow, and we'll get you going. So let's open my glitters here, and here we go. So my decoupage is here. I'm pretty generous with the decoupage at first, and then after I get it all on, then I'll start working it around to make sure that I have pretty even coverage without all these lines that I'm adding. And then we'll start working it down. So I'm in Southern California, so I've seen people do tutorials and they're talking and their decoupage is just hanging out there. I have to move fairly quickly. I don't know if it's just the climate here. It is, today's the 11th of January 2020, so Happy New Year's everybody. So I'm just being pretty generous with all the coverage. Okay, and then I also did the end. Okay. So you do not want all this thick stuff. So at this point, you're going to basically start making sure, that you don't have any lines in your decoupage, because then your glitter will clump up just on that area and look kind of strange. So this is where you got to be meticulous about making sure your lines are all spread out and not clumpy in areas. There's no rhyme or reason to my method. It's just what I've been doing that works for me. So wiping some of the excess off. Okay, and then on the end, want to make sure we've got nice clean coverage. Okay, oops. All right, let's start applying our glitter. So the first one I'm going to do is going to be the yellow one on the top. Let's move you over a little so you can see. So the glitter, the yellow on the top. And then before I get all the way to the beginning of the blue, I'm going to kind of pat this off a little bit. And then I'm going to add the blue to the bottom and work it around. And if you make an error, it's not a big deal because you can always go back and just apply more glitter. Oh, there it comes, okay. Now, I have watched many tutorials on how to merge two colors without having a line, and everybody's got a different way. So I've just kind of picked my own method that works for me, and I just kind of keep it backed up a little bit and just work it around nice and lightly. And then I'll come back in with the yellow and we'll add it to the blue that's there. And I'm quite a perfectionist, so I'm going to kind of add a little bit more of a blue to it. I find that the further up I hold my actual glitter from my cup, it seems to be an easier method to get the glitter to kind of fade. So again, we're just going to add some yellow. We're just mixing the two colors right here where they merge together. Okay, that is it. If you look, you can see that it's not a perfect little line, but it does kind of merge together. When you have two different colors, it does make it a little difficult, but once you've done it a few times, it gets easier. Alrighty, so we're going to let this dry, and I am going to spray it with some glitter sealer. And let's see if we can get you up here. And you see this little line? That's what I did not want to happen, but I didn't catch that one in time. Also a couple of these, but it's not so tragic that it's going to make a huge difference. And then the end. Okay, so we'll let this dry and we'll come back with the next part. Okay guys, cup is dried. I left it outside. It has dried, and I have sprayed it with some spray glitter sealer is what it's called. So you can see all of it. So now I'm actually going to mix my epoxy. You've got part A and part B. You need to have equal amounts. And I'm going to mix, I usually use the thinner one. If you guys work with epoxy, you know the difference. I usually take the thinner one and pour it into the thicker one. So I just want to check real quick and make sure they are even. Kind of looking like it's off a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so let me just put another squeeze in here. Okay. All right, so the trick that I use is I've seen people where they put it in hot water just to kind of warm it up a little bit. I do something different. I take my heat gun and I throw some heat on it. And I don't do it a lot. It's just enough to heat it up just so it pours a little thinner. And I've heard people say that you can actually burn your epoxy. I have not experienced that. Of course, I'm not leaving it on there for a long time. So, all right. And now I'll do the same thing. I'll heat it up on the stick a little bit. And then you stir, stir, stir. Okay, and when it becomes clear, that's when you know. Now, I don't worry about bubbles. I'm sorry, when it becomes clear, that's when you know that your epoxy has merged together and you've got the right ratio. Now, I do not worry about bubbles. People say you need to stir this nice and slow to reduce bubbles, but because I use the heat gun on my cup after I've applied the epoxy, it pops all the bubbles and gets rid of, I guess, what they call fish eyes and any imperfections in the epoxy that may cause an issue. I'm going to go ahead and stir this up, mix it, and then I'll meet you back when I get back on to the actual cup turner. Okay, so my cup is on my turner. My epoxy is mixed, so I'm going to start putting the first portion on. Glove, no glove, and I just kind of pour and I massage. This first coat needs to be kind of a thin one. You don't want it thick at all. It's basically just to set up the glitter and so you can have a form to put your stickers on. Now people use brushes. I prefer to use my hand. I like to be able to feel what parts are not covered, and I have a better feel for it with just a glove on. So now again, this is just going to be a very thin layer. You don't want it super thick at this point, but you do want to make sure that everything is covered. And then for the end, I just kind of hang it over the bottom and I just pour and I do a little slow circle around it. Alright. And with my leftover epoxy, I have little silicone molds and I'll put some color in this and make stuff for the refrigerator magnets on the back of it and stuff like that. So, alright. Feels like we got a nice even coverage. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the heat gun. Alright, so it's about 5 o'clock at night. I'm going to let this sit overnight, and then I will do a light sanding of it with the sanding brick that I showed you earlier. Let me grab it. With the sanding brick. I'm dropping stuff. There you go. I'll just do a light sanding. It will change the color. Right now it's pretty glossy. When I sand it, it'll become very dull, but when I put my second coat of epoxy on it, the color will come right back. So we're going to let this sit overnight, and then we'll come back and sand it, apply the decals, and final coat of epoxy, and then we'll show you the final result. Okay, so the final part of this, I've taken the cup outside. I have sanded it, so it is got a little dull shine to it. Right, I'm trying to get my phone and do this. It's crazy. I don't know how people do this. So it looks a little dull right now. So I've sanded it all, even the bottom part, the rim. I'm going to put the decal on there. Once I've put in the decal on there, then we will apply our final coat of epoxy. So let me get that ready and get you going. Okay, here is the final product. It is still drying. It's the last coat of epoxy on here. So I did what I said I was going to do earlier in the video. I went outside and I sanded it this morning. Made sure there was no bumps, bubbles, any hard spots defining areas. And I went ahead and I applied the vinyl decal. It is 3 layers. It's the white on top of the blue on top of the white, and then the checkered flag is yellow. So this is a final product. I have a heart on the bottom. That is my sticker that I put on the bottom of my cups. I am by no means a professional at this. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and these are just the little tricks that have worked for me. Some people are asking about my turners, so let me kind of back up and show you. I have all kinds of stuff added to it. So these are my turners in the back. As you can see, it's basically just a rotisserie turner. So I have them back to back, and my husband and I created this little setup. So it goes through the piece of wood, and the bracket is there. And then I just take off these ends. I put a piece of wax paper on the bottom to collect the drippage of the epoxy. And so I have 2 of them going. They work out great for me. This is a hit and miss. We did several different tries at this cup turner, and this worked out wonderful. I think I paid $20 for one rotisserie turner at Walmart. Can't find them now. And then just the football on a stick. I drilled it out. Cut the tops of them off. That way they sit nice and flat in the inside of the cup. And I used some Gorilla Glue. I don't know what kind it was, but some Gorilla Glue, and I just poured the middle of the ball out, stuck my rod in. I ordered extra rods so that I have several different sizes. I have this one for a coffee mug. I have the larger one for bigger cups, the 40 ounces. Here, I don't like this rod, but it was a work in progress. That was the beginning. And there you go. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. No negative comments. If you've got something that works best for you, please share with everybody else, because we are all crafters and love to pick up new ideas. Have a great day, guys.